Hey everyone, just wanted to record a quick video for you on the subject of real estate investment. Obviously, as you know, that's something that we're passionate about. I'm passionate about it, and I know many of you are as well. I've got a number of clients who are active current real estate investors, many others who would like to invest in real estate down the line. And I've had some interaction with clients. I've had a few questions come up. And I thought that maybe putting together a video and talking through some of these questions might be helpful. So first thing I want to do is bring up the hierarchy of wealth. That's something that I know many of you are also familiar with. If you've read Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, you see it in there. This is something that kind of goes back to the very beginning for me in terms of a good visual representation of what it is that I'm trying to do just in my own sort of personal financial space, as well as what I'm helping clients to do. So just quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. I'm just bringing this up for some quick context. Obviously, the name of the game for us is we are looking for ways to find our surplus, right? It's disposable income, discretionary income, the money that we're setting aside and saving. Obviously, what we want to do there is we want to get as much of that as we possibly can into our policy. Obviously, as that happens, that builds up our cash value. And for me, cash value is synonymous with opportunity fund, right? As that builds, as this base layer builds up, right? It's safe, steady, sustainable. It's all of what we would want to have in a stable base that we can build on top of. Okay, so of course, as that happens, we're generating a rate of return inside of our policy. We'll just call that rate of return number one. Well, probably the most attractive feature, or one of the most attractive features of the policy, is the fact that we have our loan provision, and that loan provision allows us to then leverage into other assets, investment real estate being the subject that I'm going to talk through here in just a second. So for us, we get the ability to leverage this accumulating cash value and to take it and create from it additional streams of income, right? So additional cash flow as we acquire real estate. Then as that cash flow, as we see that positive cash flow, of course, we have that cycle back down into that bottom layer, into our policy, and we use that to pay back our policy loan. And then eventually, obviously, we're going to take that cash flow as income. So this is kind of the context, because I've had this conversation, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of times, and for many people, this is enough, where they say, got it, this concept is very clear. But I've had a couple of clients ask recently, one guy, an excellent client, he was teed up and ready to go, as far as he had a big lump sum of cash that he was sitting on, and basically saying, man, I need to see that I'm better to shift this cash into a policy and then use it for real estate investment versus just jumping in to invest in real estate straight away, because I'm ready to go. And so I need to see how working it into the policy first is going to be beneficial to me. So in other words, this concept, this visual wasn't enough. You needed to see something more detailed. So what we created as a result of that was something that I think is pretty cool. So this is really the subject that I wanted to get into for purposes of this video. So obviously lots of columns, lots of numbers on the screen. Don't get distracted by that quite yet. So first thing I'm going to do is just take a look at this section over here, kind of on the left-hand side of the screen. So basically what I did was I just copied and pasted numbers from this client's illustration, from his policy structure. So you can see that he was sitting on a good-sized chunk of cash initially. The game plan is to fund the policy aggressively over the first 5 years of the policy, getting in a lot of paid-up additions. And then at that point, kind of make a game time decision as we get further down the line. But I just wanted to illustrate conservatively and say, well, what if he dropped to the base premium plus just the minimum PUA at that point beyond? What does that look like, right? And so you can see his cash value build up over time. You can see his death benefit, okay? Now, that brings in the wealth maximization account, brings in the policy values, the base layer. Now, how do we show that being utilized in real estate investment? Where does that come into play? Well, if you now kind of take a look at this section where you'll see monthly policy values, just maybe a quick bit of context. These numbers over here on the left, these are annualized, right? This is how much premium he's putting into the policy on an annual basis, how much his cash value is increasing in value on an annual basis, and so on. Well, these values in the center, these are monthly values. So I'll explain. So first thing he plans to do, or this has already happened. So the first thing that he did, I should say, is he took an immediate policy loan right out of the gate. So month number one, he takes an immediate policy loan of $80,000. Okay. Now I'm going to toggle over to this other tab. Okay. So you see this first line, this first line right here, RE property one. Well, you see market value 400,000, down payment 80. Obviously, I made these nice round numbers that are easy to understand. So you can think of this in a couple of different ways. This $80,000 down payment, that represents 20% of the purchase price. Okay, so it could be one $400,000 home that he puts 80 grand down. That's not typical, obviously, for investment real estate. It could be two $200,000 houses, $40,000 down payments. Again, not super typical in terms of cash flowing rental real estate that we tend to see. More likely, this is four $100,000 properties, each of which would carry a $20,000 down payment. So that $80,000 represents four down payments. So four properties that he's purchasing. Okay, the assumptions that we make here are as follows. So 5% financing rate. So $80,000 down, that represents 20%. So the down payment. The other 80% is being financed by a bank, conventional loan, at a rate of 5%. These other numbers, so I've even factored in vacancy rate, operating expenses, etc. And really what I'm trying to, there's nothing real magical about these numbers in particular. They can vary a little bit from market to market. But really what I'm trying to do here is I'm dialing this number in. So again, if we've talked real estate investment in the past, you know that for me, a 10% cash on cash return, that's kind of the threshold that I'm looking to break. In other words, anything there or above is kind of green light, right? That's a deal that you can do and is very realistic. And for me, if it's less, if I'm presented a deal and it's less than 10% cash on cash, I generally pass on that unless there's some other redeeming factor like, significant potential for appreciation or something, right? There's got to be something that makes it worthy of consideration if it's sub 10%. So 10% or above, that's the type of deal that you want to take a look at. So I just dialed these in so that we're assuming just a straight up 10%. We're not assuming the world. Many of the properties that I own are quite a bit better than 10%. So 10% is very doable. Okay, so what you see then is that $80,000 policy loan coming out, and in exchange for that, we're acquiring some real estate, right? That cash flows at 10%. So you see this far right column over here, total policy loan repayment. So that 670 is the cash flow from that real estate that this client has acquired. And then you see that 670 is split up. So think again of the hierarchy of wealth, and you see the cash flow cycling back down into that bottom layer. Well, there's policy loan interest, right, on the policy loan that we took from our policy that we used to acquire the properties. So that's 317, and then the other 353 is loan principal. Okay. Now you'll see these numbers increasing incrementally each month. Why does that happen? Hopefully this isn't super confusing, but it's easier to build in inflation within a spreadsheet like this. It's easier to build that in so that it happens incrementally each month as opposed to on the anniversary, inflation increase. On the anniversary, inflation increase. So we built in just some inflation adjustments, some very basic, I think it's a 2% inflation adjustment, and you see that reflected each month. So that's the only reason why those numbers are increasing slightly, okay? So $80,000 policy loan, you see our beginning loan balance, you see our ending loan balance, you see the portion of the cash flow being applied to principal, the portion of the cash flow being applied to interest. Okay, so just to keep things simple, then what we do is on the anniversary, another policy loan comes out, 4 new properties are acquired, or 2 or 1, or depending upon the type of property being acquired, but $80,000 policy loan that represents 20% down payment. And you can see the increase in our cash flow. You can see that there's more now going back to policy loan interest and principal. You see that again on the anniversary, that happens again. We take another policy loan, and then you see at year 3, we do it again. Only this time our cash value is increasing, and the cash flow itself, as it cycles back in to replenish the policy loan, that's happening faster and faster. So you can see that we're starting to build this momentum, which actually allows the client to use a $100,000 policy loan instead of just the 80. So you can see the wheels starting to turn faster and faster. Again, it happens now 120 on the anniversary. And then just for simplicity's sake, we kind of back it down to a final 80. And the objective here, just that I'm mapping out in this spreadsheet, is over a 5-year window of time, this client is aggressively acquiring properties. Okay, so each year 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 properties. And then at the end of that 5-year window, the idea is that, and I'm kind of experiencing a little bit of this myself, you eventually get to the point where you have enough property, right? You may swap out, this one for maybe that one that might be performing a little bit better if market conditions are right and it's a good time to sell or something. You may swap out a property for another one, but you may eventually get to the point where you feel like you have enough in terms of quantity, right? And in this case, over this 5-year window of time, I mean, this could represent as many as 25 different properties, depending upon the purchase price that we're talking about. So it's likely that you get to that point, maybe that's enough. So what I show this client doing is, after that 5-year window of really aggressively buying, I show him, because he's built up $5,500 a month of cash flow, I show that now funneling, or just continuing to funnel back into the policy to pay down the outstanding policy loan balance. So you see these numbers, or this column right here, continuing to decrease, decrease, decrease. And then eventually what you see is about year 13. So we're looking at about a 13-year window of time. 5 years of aggressive acquiring of properties, and then the remaining 7-8 years of paying back the policy loan. So what you see is at the end of that time period is he's got just under $8,000 a month of net cash flow. And by that point, he's got $728,000 of completely unencumbered cash value. Okay, so we've got the cash flow from the rental real estate, as well as now the cash value from the policy as it continues to increase in value over time. So this, the kind of the purpose behind this tool, or this spreadsheet, is to show kind of the combination of those two things. It's not just about our base layer. It's not just about the policy's ability to increase over time and generate its own return. It's the combination of that increase, that return generation, plus the ability to leverage it and acquire and build up $8,000 of monthly cash flow that's going to last for the remainder of his life if he wants it to. It's the ability to do both of those things simultaneously. And again, that's the power that exists within the policy, is the ability to do multiple things at the same time. That's why it's our base layer. That's why it's the ideal vehicle that gives us the ability to leverage into real estate, because we're building, we're growing, we're accumulating, but we're also acquiring assets that are going to cash flow and really pay us for the rest of our lifetime. So hopefully this adds a little bit more clarity, a little bit more detail to the concept of the hierarchy of wealth with the base layer, and using the loan provision to leverage up and to build out subsequent layers as well. So if this would be helpful for you to see for yourself, let me know. If you'd like me to send you out, a sort of a template version of this calculator so that you can kind of play around with it, let me know that as well. Happy to do that. And again, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.